The holographic display flickered to life in Princess Keira's chambers, and she felt her blood turn to ice. The genetic compatibility algorithm had made its selection. After scanning millions of profiles across 12 species, the ancient Valnari protocol had chosen her mate, a human. She stared at the name in disbelief. Daniel Carter, Earth-born engineer. The words blurred as rage flooded through her. Humans were primitives, barely 2 centuries into space travel. They were known throughout the galaxy for their wars, their chaos, their irrational emotions. And now one of them would be bound to her bloodline forever. Her father, Emperor Thoron, stood unmoved when she stormed into the throne room. His silver skin gleamed under the crystalline lights, his 4 eyes unblinking. "The protocol cannot be ignored," he said simply. "It has guided our people for 10,000 years. The match is genetic destiny." Keira argued until her voice went hoarse. She cited human violence, their primitive technology, their short lifespans. Her father listened patiently, then gave his final command. "You will meet him on Kairos, 9 station in 3 days. You will honor our traditions." Dismissed. She spent those 3 days in cold fury. Her attendants packed her ceremonial robes in silence, knowing better than to speak. The royal cruiser carried her across the void toward the neutral station, and with every passing hour her dread deepened. What kind of creature would she face? Some battle-scarred soldier? A crude mechanic smelling of engine oil? She imagined rough hands, aggressive posture, the barely contained violence humans were famous for. Kairos. 9 appeared through the viewport, a gleaming wheel spinning slowly against the stars. The station served as neutral ground for diplomatic meetings, a place where ancient laws held sway. Keira adjusted her formal robes, the deep blue fabric flowing like water. Her skin shimmered with the natural bioluminescence of her people, patterns of light dancing across her arms when her emotions ran high. Right now, those patterns betrayed her anxiety pulsing too quickly. She forced herself to breathe, to dim the lights beneath her skin. The ceremonial chamber was beautiful, she had to admit. Transparent walls showed the cosmos beyond. Flowers from a dozen worlds filled the air with competing fragrances. And there, standing near the center of the room, was him. Daniel Carter didn't look like a warrior. He wore simple formal clothes, Earth-style, dark and understated. He was tall by human standards, but average compared to her people. His hair was brown, his skin a warm tan, his eyes a deep hazel that watched her approach with something like nervousness. When he saw her, he smiled. It was a small, gentle expression. "Hello, Princess Keira," he said quietly. "It's an honor to meet you." She kept her face cold, her voice formal. "The honor is required by law, not choice." His smile faded slightly, but he nodded. "I understand. This isn't what you wanted." She was surprised by his directness, his lack of anger. Most species would have taken offense. She studied him more carefully. His hands were steady, calloused from work but clean. His posture was relaxed but respectful. He smelled faintly of something pleasant, maybe soap or cologne. Nothing about him matched her expectations. Before she could respond, the station shuddered. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Daniel's entire demeanor changed in an instant. He grabbed her arm, not roughly but firmly, and pulled her toward the wall. "Get down," he said. That was an explosion. She started to protest, but another blast rocked the chamber. The transparent walls cracked. Atmosphere began hissing out through a dozen fractures. Daniel moved with frightening efficiency. He stripped off his jacket and pressed it against the largest crack, buying them seconds. His other hand worked his communicator. "This is Carter in Ceremonial Chamber 7. We have hull breaches and casualties. Need emergency teams now." His voice was calm, controlled. No panic, no hesitation. Keira watched him, stunned. This was the primitive? This was the violent savage? The station's automated systems activated emergency barriers, sealing their section, but they were trapped now, cut off from help. Daniel checked the environmental readout on the wall panel. His expression tightened. "We have maybe 4 hours of oxygen. The attack damaged the recyclers." Keira felt fear crawl up her spine. 4 hours? Daniel met her eyes. I can fix it, but I need to access the external maintenance port. That's outside the hull. She understood immediately. A spacewalk. In the middle of a terrorist attack with debris fields and potential secondary explosions. That's suicide, she said. He smiled again, that same small expression. Maybe. But it's better than suffocating together. He moved to the emergency locker and began pulling out a pressure suit. It was designed for Valnari physiology, far too large for him. He improvised quickly, adjusting straps, sealing joints. His hands never shook. Why are you doing this? Keira asked. You don't even know me. You could call for rescue. Wait it out. Daniel paused, looking at her with those steady hazel eyes. Because waiting means we both die. And I'd rather try than surrender. That's just how humans are built. She wanted to argue, but found she had no words. He finished sealing the suit and moved to the airlock. Stay away from the breaches. Conserve your breathing. I'll be back in 30 minutes. The airlock cycled and he was gone. Keira stood alone in the damaged chamber, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with stress. Through the cracked walls, she could see him, a small figure in an ill-fitting suit, magnetic boots carrying him across the station's hull. Debris spun past him. Emergency lights strobed in the distance. He moved carefully, methodically, toward the maintenance port. She thought about what she knew of humans, the wars, the conflicts, but also their exploration. Ooh. Their art. Their stubborn refusal to accept extinction when their world had nearly died. They had clawed their way back from environmental collapse, rebuilt their civilization, reached for the stars with technology they'd invented in barely 200 years. What her people had needed millennia to achieve, humans had done in generations. Not because they were better, because they never stopped trying. Daniel reached the port and began working. Even through the wall, she could see the precision of his movements. He wasn't fighting the problem. He was solving it, step by careful step. Minutes crawled past. 20, 25. The oxygen reading in the chamber dropped steadily. Her lungs began to labor. Then she saw him stumble. A piece of debris, invisible in the chaos, had struck his suit, air vented in a white stream. Keira's heart seized. She ran to the communication panel. Daniel, your suit. His voice came back, strained but focused. I know. Sealing now. Hold on. She watched him pull emergency patches from his toolkit, slap them over the tear. The venting stopped. But his oxygen was critically low now. He had minutes at best. Finish the repair, she wanted to scream. Save yourself. But he didn't rush. He completed the maintenance procedure exactly as it needed to be done. Thorough. Then he began the journey back. He made it to the airlock with seconds to spare. The pressure cycled and he collapsed through the inner door, ripping off the helmet. His face was pale, his breathing ragged. But he was alive, and the environmental systems were humming. Clean air flooded the chamber. Keira dropped to her knees beside him. You nearly died, she whispered. He managed a weak smile. Nearly doesn't count. For the next hour they sat together while rescue teams cut through to their section. Daniel's breathing slowly returned to normal. Keira found herself studying him, this human who had risked everything for someone who had treated him with contempt. She thought about her prejudices, her assumptions, how wrong she had been. Finally, she spoke. I need to tell you something. My people, the Valnari military, were responsible for the Titan colony incident 15 years ago. We claimed it was an accident. It wasn't. We destroyed that settlement to test a new weapon. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. I know, he said softly. My parents and sister were on Titan. She felt her patterns flare with shock and shame. You knew, and you still saved me? He turned to look at her. Hating you for what your military did won't bring them back. And you're not your military. You're just Keira, a person I'm supposed to get to know. Maybe even love if we're lucky. She felt something crack inside her, some wall she hadn't known existed. The rescue teams finally broke through. Medical personnel swarmed Daniel, checking his vitals. Keira's royal guards surrounded her, demanding to know if she was harmed. She waved them away, her eyes never leaving Daniel. He was being helped to his feet, still weak but smiling at the medics fussing. Before they could separate them, she crossed the room. She took his hand in hers, feeling the warmth of human skin against her own cool touch. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted, forming the traditional Valnari symbol of acceptance. The guards gasped. "Princess," one started. She silenced him with a look. Then she turned back to Daniel. "The protocol gave us to each other. I thought it was a curse, but I was wrong." He squeezed her hand gently. "So you'll give this a chance?" She nodded. "I'll give us a chance, because you showed me what I needed to see. Humans aren't violent primitives. You're survivors. You're hope wrapped in flesh. And maybe that's exactly what my people need." News of her decision spread through the Valnari Empire like wildfire. The princess who had railed against her human match now stood before the imperial court, hand in hand with Daniel Carter, declaring her choice. Some were outraged, others were curious. But Keira stood firm. She had seen the truth in the darkness of that damaged chamber, in the face of a man who chose courage over hate. The genetic protocol hadn't made a mistake. It had seen something her prejudice had blinded her to. Daniel stood beside her, quiet and steady as always. When asked to speak, he simply said, "I can't promise this will be easy. Our peoples have a lot of history to overcome, but Keira and we're going to try. Because trying is what humans do best, and because she's worth it." The court erupted in debate, but Keira didn't care. She looked at the human engineer who had saved her life and opened her eyes, and she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The protocol had been right all along, not because genetics determined destiny, but because sometimes you needed to be pushed beyond your fears to find what you were truly capable of. She had dreaded having a human mate. Now she couldn't imagine her future without him. Daniel Carter, with his quiet strength and endless resilience, had shown her that humanity's greatest power wasn't their weapons or their fury. It was their refusal to give up, even when the universe itself seemed against them. And that was something worth bonding with, worth building a future on, worth love.